Gauravani Pachari Shesha Shunyavad Paschatya Deshitad Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. So I'd like to welcome all the devotees. Thank you very much for kindly joining us today. We are looking at the 5th chapter, the second half of the 5th chapter today. But before we start in the Bhagavad Gita, we wanted to recite some glorification of Bhagavad Gita. We've already gone through the Gita Mahatmya, which is in the Padma Purana, written by Srila Vyasdev, spoken by Lord Shiva. So now we wanted to look at what the Hari Bhakti Vilas is. Hari Bhakti Vilas is a book that's been written by Sanatan Goswami. And Sanatan Goswami, we celebrated his disappearance day yesterday. He's one of the 6 Goswamis, very austere and wonderful, advanced devotee of the Lord. His position is one of Lavanga Manjari in the spiritual world, very close to Radha and Krishna. So he has access to all the truths. And also, he was a beloved disciple of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. So, very close disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, he has written this Hari Bhakti Vilas, and there's about 15 or something like glorifications of Bhagavad Gita, which he makes. And this is one of them. So let's recite this together. Skande Avanti Kande Shri Vyos Shokto Gita Shugita Kartavya Kim Anya Shastra Vishtaranaya Vya Swayam Padma Navasya Mukha Padma Vinihashta. So it says, translation, in the Skanda Purana, this is one of the 18 Puranas, Vyasdev says, memorize and sing sweetly Bhagavad Gita. What need is there to elaborate on other scriptures? She has descended directly from the lotus mouth of Lord Padmanabha. So this is a very nice glorification of Bhagavad Gita. So we'll continue with other glorifications of Hari Bhakti Vilas in the next few days. Okay, so far, just because we haven't looked at Bhagavad Gita for a couple of days, I thought let me just do a quick summary. Krishna's main man, Arjun, his commander-in-chief, didn't want to fight due to weakness of heart. He saw in front of him his grandfather, his guru, his cousins, uncles, and he didn't want to fight. And he gave many reasons to Krishna why the fight should not go ahead. In the second chapter here, he surrenders onto Krishna, and he asks Krishna for help, and Krishna immediately tells him who he actually is, the soul, not the body, and the duties that relate to him as a person, as in the body that is, and also the duties of the soul. And he also explains to him about one who fulfills those duties, how he behaves. And in the third chapter, Krishna elaborates on karma yoga, how to work, how to do your duty, but don't be attached to the fruits, and in that way you avoid sin. In the fourth chapter, Krishna describes about transcendental knowledge, how to acquire this important knowledge, different types of actions, and also what his mission is in this planet. So, in the fifth chapter, what we've gone through so far, actually Arjun wanted more clarification because for our sake, he was confused about whether he should renounce and leave everything or work. So Krishna explains to him how he can work in such a way that he turns that work into worship. And through Nishkam Karma Yoga, where the results of the work are surrendered to the Lord. And also to realize that the work that we're doing, we're not actually responsible apart from desiring it. And we can realize that we are not actually the doers, which is very important, so that we don't let the false ego in us interfere with our spiritual identity. And I think devotees were a little bit stunned by that last theme of the Bhagavad Gita. So let's move on to the next two themes. Now, anybody like to read the verses? Would anybody like to volunteer?
Hey, Kamakshi here will do. Navi?
Kamakshi, yes.
She wants to. Go on.
Get my confidence.
Go for it.
Where did we end? I can't remember.
Text 17. Yeah.
Text 17, yeah.
Easy.
Okay, text 17. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai, Bhakti Maharaj ki jai. Text 17. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, and one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight onto the path of liberation. Text 18. Humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater outcast. Text 19. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Text 20. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. Text 21. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. Text 22. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Text 23. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. Text 24. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. Text 25. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubt, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Text 26. Those who are free from anger and are all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. Text 27 and 28. Shutting out on external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostril and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence, the transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in the state is certainly liberated.
That's good. Thank you very much, Devi.
Yeah, very well.
So from these verses, quite a lot of verses there, about 12, I think, we can see how Krishna's elaborating on somebody who fulfills his duty in Nishkam Karma Yoga, i.e. doing his work, not being attached to the work or the fruits, but actually we are relinquishing them to the Lord, an attachment to the Lord. He's such a gentle soul, equal vision, etc. And he's free from anger, free from desires, self-realized. So these are wonderful qualities that he's explaining. And this spiritualist who is in this situation sees a spirit soul in all the different varieties of life, be it plant, animal, human, and is willing to give respect to everybody. And the key verse here is 5:18. Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavi Hastini Sunicheva Swapakrecha Pandita Sampa Darshina. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmin, cow, elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcast. He sees them with equal vision. It doesn't mean he treats them the same. He won't treat the dog the same as the Brahmin, but he will see that actually there are different bodies, but the inside, the soul, is of the same spiritual nature as his. And hence, he sees them with an equal vision. So, each living entity is of the same spiritual quality, and different bodies with different qualities are produced according to our past karma, the desires of our desires, and our consciousness. That is the reason why we get different types of bodies, because of our past karma, our good deeds, our misdeeds, our desires, what we want to fulfill, and our consciousness. What are we thinking? Where are we at? According to these three, we get our bodies. And so the devotee will recognize that that's why we got different bodies, but we're actually of the same spiritual nature. So the spiritualist is not only free of racism, nationalism, ageism, sexism, but also speciesism. Now, the lesson to learn from this. If we have any prejudice against anyone, perhaps due to the color of their skin, this is very topical at the moment, Black Lives Matter, then we should understand that we are in gross ignorance. So if we are seeing somebody with a black body or a brown body or a white body or a yellow body, and we have certain preconceptions about that person based on the color of their skin or their body, then we should understand that we have a problem. And it's a problem which is one of gross ignorance. And it's something that we are very fortunate that we have an opportunity to correct ourselves, especially by remembering that verse we just talked about. Vidya Vinaya Sampane. Madhusudan Prabhu, is there anything that you'd like to add or any realization?
Yeah, Haribol, yeah. It's a very important aspect here, isn't it, of our action and the reactions and what are we conscious of, and this whole thing about samadarshina, pandita. Pandita means an intelligent person or someone who is a self-realized person. Samadarshina means equal vision. He has an equal vision, so that is seeing all different species of life, that there is life in everything. And when we start to realize that there is life in plants and everything is at a certain energy level. Everything has got energy, and it's all Krishna's energy. But some may be at a low energy, some at a high energy, some may be at a higher consciousness, or lower consciousness. It's one thing that this Bhagavad Gita and learning the teachings about this start to open up our mind and our heart, and that's what we have to start also seeing on a equal platform. I think Prabhupada refers to this as like spiritual communism, isn't it? Whereas on a communist, they have a good idea, but it's not practical because if some of it was that Animal Farm, or there's a book, isn't it? That was a great classic. As a kid, in the school, we are made to read that book, The Animal Farm, where the pigs take over the whole farm, and then they try to make everything equal, and suddenly they find that power is shifted from one space to the other, and they want to try and get rid of all the farmers, and then there is inequality again. So that's what happens in communism, where they're trying to make everything equal on a material platform. Everybody's equal, but there is distinction on characteristics, or the personalities and people's behavior and all that. But there's difference there, but not on a spiritual platform. So when you start to, on a spiritual platform, there's spiritual communism can exist on that level, but not on a material. It just doesn't work. We've seen communism die in Russia. China is hanging on to it and all that, but the power is only in the hands of the elite, and then they dictate and control, and that's open to kind of manipulation, and one species seeing other as a low and high, and the injustices that result, as a result of the world suffering from what is the skin disease, just looking at the skin and judging people on that basis, rather than delving deeper into the person, and realizing there's an Atma. And not only that, later on Bhagavad Gita said all these living entities, they are all part and parcel, they may be not equal in quantity, but quality-wise, we are all spiritual entities, that Krishna is spiritual being. So like that, I think that helps to transcend, and that's why when Prabhupada came, and he never discriminated against anything. He just said, you're all bodies, he always in his lectures, he's always saying, although everybody is thinking, I'm American, I'm Indian, I'm American, Australian, whatever, there's different labels that we put on. But he actually elevated all those disciples of his onto a spiritual platform, in black and white and all that, and that's why it's an international society, isn't it? And then you can go to any temple and you find, and when you're there, you can start to relate with anyone because they're on a spiritual platform. Last year I went to Hungary, and the Hungarian devotees, and some of them was, relating to me how fortunate they are that they've come across Prabhupada's, and they've taken advantage of Prabhupada's mercy, that they are known as the Hunas, the barbaric tribes, of Europe. And the Srimad Bhagavatam describes, the the different types of Yavanas and Hunas, and this Hungarian was saying, he said, we are supposed to be, our forefathers and our culture is like the Hunas, we are barbaric. Look at typical Hungarian, he'd be with beard and mustache and big muscles and you know, and then big, the Vikings, like the Vikings, you know, these tusks and the helmet and everything. And we were like that kind of culture. Our culture is like that. But because of Prabhupada's mercy, here we are practicing bhakti, and here we are doing devotional service, and we receive every guest of different types, and we transcended the identity of Hunas. We are now Krishna conscious devotees, and we're doing bhakti, and then they see themselves as spirit souls, you know, part and parcel of Krishna. It's such an amazing thing that, you know, Prabhupada lifted everywhere who comes in contact, and that's why this knowledge is so required, and this, you know, and that's why Prabhupada, you know, went to America, you know, at such an old age, and achieved so much. The teachings of Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam were his main instructions. As Guru Maharaj said, you know, just print these books in English, preach in English. And Prabhupada himself, you know, was having an identity. In his biography, if we read, you know, we realize that Prabhupada had joined Gandhi's movement, and suddenly he was just tangled up in this freedom movement and this ism or that ism and all that. And then the Prabhupada's illusion was broken, and he was, you know, he was taken out of that illusory kind of concepts of political and nationalistic and all that kind of identities by his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta. Because they are self-realized souls, you know, they can liberate these people from all these illusory, you know, identities. And Prabhupada then spent all his life, you know, not within the Gandhi's movement, but, you know, as we realize history is unfolding and we realize how much of a disaster Gandhi's movements and other political movements were, you know, on the basis of non-violence, there was so much violence. So, you know, we need the guidance of a self-realized person like Sri Prabhupada, you know. So this is the platform, which Navi, you're doing a wonderful job here, trying to educate, you know, or making us realize of the Bhagavad Gita, you know, as Prabhupada is presenting Krishna's knowledge here. His philosophy, you know, is timeless. This time, you know, when Prabhupada was told that this knowledge is timeless, it's applicable and it's useful and it's needed in all time and circumstances, not if India is free or not free, or whether there is this circumstances or we are COVID free or whatever, you know, we are all in need of this knowledge. So whoever is taking part in these Bhagavad Gita classes are also fortunate, you know, that hopefully they come to unfold and realize, you know, where this is all taking them, and hopefully bring some transformation. So I hope this helps, but we are in these lessons that we have to learn, you know, transcending. Even myself, when I was young, grown up in Africa, and we used to see the Africans as distant Indians, amongst the Indian culture as well, saying one jati is better than the other jati, Brahmins are higher than Sudras and Sudras are higher. They were tangled up in all that nonsense. You know, you know, we are Lohanas, or we are this, we are that, we are better than you know, but that's not the whole idea. The whole idea is actually we are all Sanatanis. You know, we can keep other things like, you know, I'm a Sudra or this or that, you know, keep it at home. But when you come out and you say, I'm a follower and I'm a practitioner of Sanatan Dharma, eternal religion, eternal concept, you know, just like, you know, water is the same for everyone. the taste of water, the sunshine, everything is all eternally, scientifically organized by Krishna. So I hope that helps. I don't know, that's my realizations.
Yeah. Are there any questions from anybody? Like to seek any clarification for what we've said? Does it make sense?
Yeah, hope I haven't carried on a bit, but
I think, yes, as you said, especially when you're from, Nani Ben?
No, he's explained it very nicely that there should be, like, because of the spiritualism, everybody is saying, though they may have different characteristics and behave in a different ways, but spiritually we are all the same. Very nicely explained.
Now, especially when you're born in Africa, like tradition that we just mentioned.
Yes.
Then, you know, there's certain concepts that we have in our minds. And, you know, unfortunately, we carry those concepts throughout our life because we've been brought up from a young age in those countries of certain people. And to change that concept can take some time. But it is possible, and it is important to also change our conceptions. I think when you come to the Krishna conscious movement, you can see there's black body, there's white body, there's brown body, there's yellow body. All different types of personalities take to Krishna. And as Madhusudan very nicely said, Prabhupada's mission was not discriminatory against anybody. It encompassed everybody. And that's the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. It's the beauty of Lord Krishna. He allows every, you know, he's not partial to anyone. He'll allow everybody to advance if they want to. So if we feel, you know, like, we can judge it for ourselves. We'll know inside. We see somebody and immediately we make a color judgment, a judgment based on the color. We should correct ourselves at that time. No, this is wrong thinking. And it's an unfortunate natural thing that we do, you know, it happens. But we need to control that. And if we don't, we should understand we've got some way to go in our spiritual life. Okay, anybody else or comments? Okay, let's go to the last bit. It's actually only one word, very important words. Text number 29, I'll just read it actually. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. So it's three aspects. This is an incredible verse. There's three aspects to it. If we want peace, there's three things we can understand to get that peace. Knowing that the Lord is the ultimate beneficiary of everything, of all of our sacrifices, of our austerities. Second, to know He is the supreme Lord of everyone. And third is, He's the benefactor and the well-wisher. Isn't that wonderful? Well-wisher of everyone. So knowing He's the ultimate beneficiary, supreme Lord, well-wisher, we get peace. We get peace. This is the end of chapter 5, Karma Vairagya. So the summary of this chapter: we come into this world with nothing. We leave with nothing. Right? This is a really common saying. Everybody understands this. But unfortunately, why we live here, we don't quite get it. In the interim, our claims to proprietorship and attachments to wealth create fear, insecurity, and conflict. In this world, there's always change. Everything is changing constantly. Our relationships, our friendships, the environment, the possessions, our desires, everything is changing. And that gives us a lot of insecurity, a lot of fear, and conflict comes in. So to the extent that we develop this sense of detachment and attachment to the Lord, understanding that the Lord is the proprietor, He's the owner. We are simply tenants whilst we're living in this world, caretakers. And then we will get some peace within ourselves. So the lesson here is, it's an interesting one. It's a practical one. When we feel stress about a particular situation, everybody has stress, some sort of stress, some big stress and little stress. Everybody's got a stressful situation in their lives, if not many. And we're not feeling peace with ourselves. Maybe worth just sitting down and analyze the reason for the stress. Understand what is the underlying problem of my stress. Why am I stressed? And if we have a sense of detachment, understanding our caretaker position in this world, that might help us reduce the stress of the situation. I'll give you one example. There's one person who came to see us the other day, and they're under a great deal of stress because their child is not well. It's a youthful lad. Now, naturally, that's a stressful situation when your children are not well. You would actually want yourself to become not well, but the children to be very well because you care for them so much. So, of course, when the child is not well, that brings on incredible stress in our life. Now, in order to, so the stress comes from understanding that this child is under difficulty and we want to help that child. Why is there stress? Because we are very attached to our children, which is, again, is quite natural in this world. However, if we understand that this child is actually the child of the Lord, I am simply looking after my child, this child, on behalf of the Lord. I will do my very best to look after this child. But ultimately, it is the Lord's wish what happens. I will simply do my caretaker position work. And it might seem a little heartless, especially, I suppose, when it's not your own child. Then maybe it's easy to say this, and when you go through it yourself, you may not be able to say what I'm going to say now. But we have to understand there has to be some level of detachment. Otherwise, if we become so stressed that we can't do anything else, then we are actually creating a problem for ourselves. There's a couple of examples. In the Bhagavatam, there is a description of a pastime of Chitraketu. He was a king who didn't have a child. He wanted a heir for his throne, his kingdom, and he had many wives. None of them produced a child. Until a sage came to their home, to their palace, and benedicted the king with a son. But he said to the king, the son will give you great happiness, but also great sorrow. And the king didn't hear the last bit. He said, no problem, I take the happiness. The other queens became very jealous of this child. The child came, and the king and the queen who bore the child, became very close. And they would look after the baby. The other queens became jealous, and they conspired to kill the baby. The baby died. The king was in great lamentation, as was the queen. At that time, the sage came back, Narada, and he said, he inquired from the king, what's the matter? Our son has died. So the king, the sage, very powerful sage, he said to the soul in the body of the baby, he said, wake up. Why have you left your mother and father? And this child, actually, the soul went back into the body, and the child spoke. saying, which mother and father are you talking about? I have had millions of mothers and fathers in the past. Which mother and father are you talking about? And when the king and queen heard the child speaking, they naturally developed a sense of detachment, understanding that the nature of the soul is eternal. And whilst we're in this world, we develop attachments to different objects. But those attachments are actually a source of illusion, which detract us from our real business of beginning to understand who we really are. And most of the stress that we feel is due to attachment to certain sense objects. And if we can develop a little bit of detachment from those sense objects, we'll find our stress levels will reduce. So Madhusudan Prabhu.
Yeah, whilst we are encouraged to have this sense of detachment, and that's sometimes hard to do, to remain, but once we understand that, you made a point here that when Krishna said that when you realize that I am the proprietor of everything, and then we start to realize that, whatever we gain or enter into relationship, or that somehow Krishna is entrusting his property and his spirit souls that are around. He's entrusting that to us so we can take responsibility. And then when you see that in that way, then we try to treat whatever we have, possessions, or with a bit of respect. I think we should anyway. But till we don't realize that Krishna is the proprietor of everything, and then, this has been entrusted to me, and that, I have to, whether I have a son, daughter, children, whatever, and friends, and any living entity, even if they're of a different race or anything, this is Samadarshina comes in, when you're equal vision, that you're not looking down on anyone or anything, exploiting or trying to manipulate and exploit is a big way. When we look at the histories, how many people have been annihilated and driven into slave trade and all sorts of things, when people become like that, dangerous and manipulative. So when we realize that this is Krishna's property and we should not really be mistreating it in any way, treat it with respect and value it, and then you will actually appreciate it even more, because knowing that Krishna has entrusted this, whatever it is, then you it's like, when we go to work, our boss's property, we do a good job there. We make sure everything is, we do our job because we're not going to get paid for it. So, but when we come home and we have the same sort of things that we might have to do, but we don't do it properly. So we just think, why should I, I don't care anymore. That sort of attitude is not good. So while we have, if you see it with that vision, and that's how bhakti is, that Krishna is property and we are all connected to Krishna. Is Krishna's property. He's entrusting us. And, we lead our life. And if we see any people who are in difficulties, we try and help them. And that's a Vaishnava attitude,
Madhusudan.
Haji. So I hope that helps, to start to see. And like I said, sense of attachment, but the attachment is, we can start to detach ourselves from that. But seeing it as Krishna's property, we have to learn to respect it even more. And if the relationships, then make them constructive relationships, help them, get out of ignorance, help them to get into this light of this knowledge. So they can also make advancement in spiritual life. And ultimately, like you once made a comment, the Srimad Bhagavatam said, you should not have children if you cannot liberate them, and help them to move towards that's real love, where you show real love. When you don't want them to suffer this material pangs of birth, death, old age, disease, birth after birth after birth. Any living entity that is coming to our life, we have to try and see how we can encourage them, get them out of this misery. And that's the heart of acharyas, and great Goswamis and Prabhupada. Yeah, I hope that helps. I'm also working on that sort of thing. It's not always easy.
Stress, it's unfortunately it affects everybody, and I think it's one of the biggest killers now, isn't it? Apart from coronavirus.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anybody else has any comments? Yeah.
That's right. Any questions? Anything like to challenge? Don't mind challenges.
Just challenges,
This is also actually the peace formula, and
yeah, that's you got that. Yeah.
So this Krishna talks a lot about peace. How can there be happiness without peace? He says in the previous verse. In fact, there is in 266. That's what he says. How can there be any happiness without peace? In 270, he talks about achieving peace. 439, the devotee attains, the faithful person attains this supreme spiritual peace. 512, in this very chapter, he talks about the steady soul attains unadulterated peace. This peace formula we just talked about, 529. And then later on in the 18th chapter, he talks about peace, this is how the Brahmins were. They have peace within themselves. And then towards the very end, he's talking about this transcendental peace that can be attained. So peace is very important. Of course, there is, in this world, material world, peace is something that's quite elusive within ourselves. If we can find peace within ourselves, if we can become self-satisfied, not have so many desires, or the desires may come, but we don't fulfill all those desires. We don't feel we need to endeavor to fulfill every desire that we have. Then we'll become self-satisfied. Naniben?
Yes, I agree with Madhusudan Prabhuji that detachment, yes, it tells us, but we have to train to be like that. It doesn't come just naturally to us, isn't it? It takes a lot of thinking, a lot of reading into the Bhagavad Gita, understanding the scriptures to become really detached from all the surrounding us and from the material world.
But actually the only way to become detached is to become attached to Krishna and his
Yes. Yeah.
In itself.
That also doesn't come spontaneously. It will come spontaneously at a particular time, but you have to work towards it.
Of course. But it's not that we seek to become detached. Because detachment in itself is not enough anyway. And it's so hard, as you said. It's so hard. But if we seek to become attached to the Lord by chanting, by hearing about Him, by associating with His devotees, by serving Him, the more we become attached to the Lord, the detachment automatically takes place. So it's not that we're working to detach and attach. No, we're just working to attach, because that attachment will automatically reduce our attachment for material objects. It'll make us automatically detached. And it's not easy, but it's possible. And that's why Bhagavad Gita has been spoken by Krishna, to give us the ability to become attached to him. It is natural for the soul. For the body, because it's conditioned differently, it's hard. But for us, the soul, it's very natural to be attached to Krishna. We just have to realize ourselves. Again, not easy to do.
Very well. Can I make a point, please?
Yes, nothing.
If we sincerely desire, and if we have a right guidance from the Guru, and by reading books, I think the weeds would be taken away. And obviously, the manure has to be added on by associating with senior devotees who are very experienced. So to help us take the weeds out of the pathway to sincerity. Hare Krishna.
Very good point, Kamakshi Devi, that when we serve the higher authorities, the devotees who are well situated in self-realization, that goes a very long way to help us realize who we are and make us attached to the Supreme. Because we see their attach. The Maharaj who's going to come on board today, I don't know if all of you will be able to stay because actually now, 5 o'clock, we are starting another function on this same conference, Zoom conference. And that is to honor our spiritual master who passed away. He went back to the spiritual world 4 years ago in 2016, today, and the day after Guru Purnima. So when a pure devotee leaves this world, it's actually a time for celebration because he's gone back to the spiritual world. So when the spiritual master leaves, it's quite a harrowing time for the disciple. He's happy, he's bittersweet, happy that his spiritual master is back with Krishna. But he's also sad, of course, because he no longer can serve the physical form of the spiritual master. He no longer can take perhaps direct instructions from the spiritual master. But fortunately, the spiritual master, he leaves lots of instructions. And when the spiritual master leaves the planet, when we follow those instructions, then we are actually with the spiritual master. There should be no separation from the spiritual master when one is following his order. So when we serve the pure devotee, either through personal service to his body or serving his instructions, then this spiritual path becomes much easier, and attachment to Krishna becomes accessible. And once the attachment to Krishna comes, you naturally have, detachment just naturally comes. You're no longer interested in material things that you used to be, no longer interested in cinema, no longer interested in watching the television or eating at restaurants. You think, this is foreign to me. Why should I do that? How will that please the Supreme Lord? And I have no interest in that now anyway. It just naturally comes. So I hope this helps. 2 lessons from today. One was, if we see a person with a different color to ours and we have a prejudice against that person because of his color, we should understand that we are in gross ignorance and we should check ourselves. It's not too late to check ourselves and correct ourselves. And the second is when we come across a stressful situation, try to analyze, why is this stress here? Is it because I am claiming proprietorship over something I don't actually own? If it is, the owner is Krishna, then it's his problem, not our problem. If it's his problem, then he's got the stress. We don't have the stress. So thank you very much, dear devotees. If there are any questions, we're going to continue tomorrow with chapter 6 at the same time. But if there are any questions coming from today, we'll take them before starting on chapter 6. Thank you very, very much. So shall we do the Nishinga Kavach? Let's start with the Nishinga Kavach. And Karuna Bandar, you are there?
Hare Krishna.
Very good. Okay.
Shri Lakshmi Dev ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai, Bhakti Charu Swami ki jai. Nrsimha kavacham vakshe prahladena ditam pura sarva rakshakaram punyam sarvopadravanashanam sarva sampatkaram chaiva swarga moksha pradayakam dhyadva narasimham devesham hema simhasanastitam vivritasyam trinayanam sharadindu shamaprabham lakshmyalingita vamangam vibhuti virupashitam चतुर्भुजं कोमलांगं स्वर्णकुन्दरशोभितं श्रिया सुशोभितो रस्कं रत्नकेयूरमुद्रितं तप्तकाञ्चनशङ्कासं प्रीतनिर्मलवाससं इन्द्रादिशूलमौलिश्च स्फुरन्माणिक्यदीप्तिः विराजितपदद्वन्द्वं शङ्खचक्रादिहेतिभिः गरुत्मता च विनयात् स्तूयमानं मुदान्वितं स्वरितकमलसंवासं कृत्वा तु कवचं पते नरसिंहो मे शिरः पातु लोकरक्षात् सम्भव सर्वगोपीस्तम्भवास कालं मे रक्षतु ध्वनिं नरसिंहो मे दृशः पातु सोमसूर्यानिलोचन स्मृतं मे पातु नरहरि मुनिवार्यस्तुतिप्रिय नाशं मे सिंहनाशस्तु मुखं लक्ष्मीमुखोऽप्रिय सर्वविद्यादिपापातु नरसिंहो रसनां मम वक्त्रं पाद्विन्दुवदनं सदा प्रह्लादवन्दित नरसिंह पातु मे कण्ठं स्कन्धो भूभरनान्तकृत् दिव्यास्त्रशोभितभुज नरसिंह पातु मे भुजौ कदौ वरदो नरसिंह पातु सर्वदा हृदयं योगी सान्यास्य निवासं पातु मे हरि मध्यं पातु हिरण्याक्ष वक्षा कुक्षिविदारण नाभिं मे पातु नरहरि स्वनाभिब्रह्म संस्तुता ब्रह्मादकोदया कत्यां यासस्सौ पातु मे कतिं गुह्यं मे पातु गुह्यानां मन्त्राणां गुह्यरूपति कुरु मनोभव पातु जानुनि नररूपद्रि जाङ्गे पातु धराभार हर्ता योऽसौ नृकेशरी सूरराजवृद पातु पादौ मे नरहेश्वरा सहस्रशीर्षा पुरुषा पातु मे सर्वसस्तनुं बहुव्यापूर्वतः पातु महावीराग्रजोनिता महाविष्णु दक्षिणे तु महाज्वालस्तु नैऋतौ पश्चिमे पातु सर्वेषु दिशि मे सर्वतोमुखा नरसिंह पातु वायव्यां सौम्यां भेषणविग्रह शान्यां पातु भद्रो मे सर्वमङ्गलदायक संसारभयतः पातु मृत्योर्निकेशरी इदं नरसिंहं कवचं प्रह्लादमुखमण्डितं भक्तिमान् यपते नित्यं सर्वपापैः प्रमुच्यते पुत्रवान् धनवान् लोके दीर्घायुरुपजायते यं यं कामयते कामं तं तं प्राप्नोति असंशयम् सर्वत्र जयमाप्नोति सर्वत्र विजयी भवेत् भूयन्तरिक्षदिव्यानां ग्रहाणां विनिवारणम् वृश्चिकरोगसम्भूत विशापाहरणं परं ब्रह्मरक्षास्य याक्षाणां दुरोत्सारणकारणं भुजे वा तालपत्रे वा कवचं लिखितं शुभं कर्मूलेदितां येन सिद्धेयुः कर्मसिद्ध्यय देवासुर्मनुष्येषु स्वं स्वम् एव जयं लभेत् एकसन्ध्यं त्रिसन्ध्यं भवति नियतो नरः सर्वमाङ्गलमाङ्गल्यं भुक्तिं मुक्तिं च विन्दति द्वात्रिंशतिसहस्राणि पाते चूतात्मभिर्निभि कवचस्यास्य मन्त्रस्य मन्त्रसिद्धिः प्रजायते अनेन मन्त्रराजेन कृत्वा भस्माभिमन्त्रणं तिलकं बिभ्रयाद्यस्तु तस्य ग्रहभयं हरेत् त्रिवारं जपमानस्तु दत्तं वर्याभिमन्त्रस्य प्रशयेद्यं नरं मन्त्रं नरसिंह ध्यानमाचरेत् तस्य रोगाः प्रणश्यन्ति ये चक्षुकुक्षिसम्भव किमत्र बहुनोक्तेन नरसिंहः सदृशो भवेत् मनुषा
You lose her.
दिव्यान्तं तापयन्तं अन्तं क्रान्तान्तं रोहितं संहरन्तं दीक्षान्तं भूतं करनिकर्षते दिव्यसिंहं नमामि इति ब्रह्माण्डपुराणे प्रह्लादोक्तं सिंहकवचं सम्पूर्णम् लक्ष्मीनरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय महाराज की जय प्रभुपाद की जय महाराज की जय भक्तिचरु स्वामी महाराज की जय हरे कृष्ण
Hare. Thank you very much. And as always, very beautiful.